Hi everyone, welcome again. I'm Jonathan and this is Idor to my left. Thank you all for joining the webinar. We'll start just in a couple of moments. We're very excited to sit here today and talk to you about the changing delivery landscape for the Australian consumer. As mentioned before, I'm Jonathan, leading the strategy and growth in APAC, and Idor is the country manager for head of Australia and New Zealand. He'll be leading the webinar today, and then following his presentation, we'll do a bit of a Q&A session, which will be very exciting. So feel free to just put in the notes whatever questions you may have at the time, and we'll address them at the end. Yeah, that's how it's going to work today. Feel free to ask whatever you want. You know, we're very open. We've got a very good dialogue going, and we're very much looking forward to the hour ahead.
Hey all, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. You can see that we have people from different time zones around the world. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Just wanted to have the video that you will see me and Jonathan. I will turn it off now. In today's delivery ecosystem, there is only one thing that matter, and this is this guy here in the picture. You know, today we're living in a customer-centric era. Amazon and Uber are changing the game. They're changing the way that we consume and the way that we accept things to happen when we are purchasing something online. The shift that happened, Amazon has come to dominate the online retail market through rapid growth and cutting-edge innovations. The level of logistical excellence has changed the rules of the game in terms of both operational efficiency and customers' experience. There's only one thing that every company needs to deal with: delivery, either directly or indirectly. It can go to remain relevant. They must evolve by becoming fully agile across their entire delivery ecosystem. The Amazon and Uber experience capabilities, you know, it's not just Amazon and Uber. We can see it in the QSRs as well. We can see Domino's Pizza today, who is more of a tech company than a food company, has a cross-industry influence. You know, we can see today with retailers like Walmart, AutoZone, Coles, and other supermarkets across the world, adding new services to increase customer satisfaction, and QSRs like Panera Bread, KFC, who are adding more resources to deliver fast in a frictionless way to keep the customer engaged. Companies are allocating significant amount of resource to deliver faster and smoother to win the customer. You know, the kind of changes that we see today in the industry, we're talking with a lot of retailers and e-commerce around the world. We heard some interesting stories around the world. We can talk a bit about Australia, the thing that we've encountered in the last few months.
Yeah, so Ido and I have been in Australia recently a handful of times. Speaking with different retailers and different what may have you across all different industries, and we constantly hear very similar stories. You know, we talk to them. How does your delivery landscape look right now? What happens when the customer places an order and they want to know what happens? And we hear very similar examples. Well, they call our call center or they call our head office and they go, "Where's my delivery? Where's my package? What time is it arriving?" And even if you have, you know, a tracking mechanism in place, it's usually just status updates. It's okay, cool, the order's been dispatched, it's been sent to the driver, or it's been arrived. So really maybe just 3 points of visibility as opposed to just the full streaming ahead of, okay, who's your driver, what time will he arrive, more specifically from an ETA perspective, or anything like that. So something that we find is really interesting is, you know, these retailers can be receiving something of the magnitude of 15 to 20,000 calls to their call center every month, just saying, where is my package? What time will it arrive? What's gone wrong with the process? And the person at the call center can't actually know that much more than the customer, because the customer's already been emailed a link that says, here's how you can track the order. But really, the call center is just logging in to see that exact same thing. So even once they call the call center, they can't necessarily improve the customer experience through that process.
Exactly, and talking about customer experience, in my first visit in Australia in January, I really wanted to see exactly what is all the fuss about customer experience. You know, so we had a meeting with some of the biggest retailers, and for me, you know, before I came to the meeting, I just want to see what is existing out there with the customer experience. So I ordered some of the biggest retailers around there in Australia, e-commerce, you know, from socks to t-shirts to smartwatch, just to see the experience. And all of them had exactly the same things. I got some poor email notification in the morning, the delivery will arrive today, and in the end of the day, I will receive another email. And let's be honest, today it should be better. There's no reason why it won't be better, with a better, smoothest, and nicer experience for the customer that will actually make me feel to want to buy again, and to make me feel secure that the delivery is on its way and where it is, especially if I'm buying something which is expensive. So we can see today, we talked about the changes in the different industries, and we can see companies are allocating significant amount of resource to deliver in a faster and smoother to win the customer. When we're looking at the Australian market, there is a huge potential, but at the end of the day, retailers need to step out the plate in terms of both operational efficiency and customer experience. As today, most retailers and e-commerce are using local logistic provider with legacy and outdated capabilities, which is exactly what Jonathan and I mentioned before. So today this is a nice statistics about the future of e-commerce in Australia, expecting to have $45.4 billion, which is amazing. I think today is around
it's about half that.
Yeah, it's about half that today, and exactly like happened today in the US, in Europe, in different countries. So think about how often you can actually track something in real time. In the latest Amanda research, it showed that 96% of consumers in Australia want to easily track their deliveries. And if you look in the current situation, it's not the reality. When a quarter of your customers are willing to pay a bit extra to have their online purchase delivered in the afternoon, it's surprising that more retailers are not investing in the last mile. And this is exactly what we described with Jonathan and I experience, and people that we've met in Australia talking and describing their experience. Another nice story that we've met a company that do big and bulky deliveries.
Yeah, so
without mentioning name, obviously.
it's very funny, and we speak to our US counterparts like this all the time. We and our German team and our French team and our Scandinavian team, and we all hear very, very similar stories around the world. One particular story that we found very interesting was that one of Australia's larger retailers, the wife of a board member was placed an order for something that was big and bulky. And when it came time to receive the good, the delivery driver called the person who placed the order and said, "Hey, I'm outside." And the customer went, "Okay, cool. Well, I live on the second floor, so can you please bring it up?" And they go, "Nope, that's where our job finishes. See you later." And I don't think the delivery driver understood who the customer was, and so the customer, said, I think something needs to change. So obviously, she called the board member and said, "What's going on with the company that you're advising here?" So and then quickly a second delivery truck came along and made sure that the good was delivered to the final destination. But this is just a classic war story of how companies think they're doing the delivery process right until maybe they get a little bit of feedback close to home as to what's actually happening and how it can be improved.
So what's important when we want to buy online? What's make the difference? The website experience can be smoothest and innovated, but it's not enough. When we're talking about paying for the item, I think that the main idea is about the way that we deliver. I mean, when we're going to an online or a website and want to order something, the last thing that we do is to choose the delivery method. And if there is a lack of option, or if it's expensive, or if it's not something that will arrive fast, it's not something that we will do. A few years ago, when we ordered something online and it said, yes, it will arrive between 6 to 10 days, and it came in the 8 days, we were thrilled. And today, I want to buy coffee mugs, and if not here tomorrow, I'm losing my mind. So things are changing. Customer expectations are changing. The delivery method is changing, and companies need to adapt. So, logistical excellence. Every retailer should aim to achieve these two main North Stars: the optimal experience and the operational efficiency. When I'm talking about the optimal experience, I'm talking about the experience of the different players in the ecosystem. In every delivery ecosystem, we have the driver, we have the dispatcher, and we have the customers. And with that, we mean that we need to increase their efficiency. We need to make their life easier and smoother. We're talking about streamlining the operation to give them real-time visibility, both for the end customer, both for the driver, and for the dispatcher. And of course, to have an optimized cost-effective performance. And of course, to have these capabilities to manage elastic logistic, working with different 3PLs, different fulfillment companies to do the deliveries for you. Why just working with one when you can actually manage few and you can have kind of an ad hoc for the delivery operation? The experience, it's more on, I mentioned before, the driver experience, giving them technology to actually work. We have projects from companies where the driver use pen and paper to actually understand what they need to do, using CSV and Google Map to create the route. So no more, okay? It's time to scale up. It's time to bring technology in-house and to make your employee work more efficiently, easy, smarter, and to make them satisfied. Because in the end of the day, when this driver is satisfied, which is probably the most complicated component in the delivery ecosystem, everything will be smoother. So let's jump into it. Now that we know why is clear, let's move on how. Here are some key steps and best practice that companies need to adopt in order to scale up and to play in the Amazon playground. So I mentioned that we've seen some crazy things here in Bring, from companies working pen and paper in a way trying to create routing by using Google Maps, investing 3 to 4 hours to optimize the routes, to companies who are actually communicating the drivers via WhatsApp group. But once you start working with a centralized system, the process will be much more efficient and smoother. The ability to optimize and automate various tasks and assignments using an efficient process can now enable you and your customer and your entire ecosystem to work more smarter and easier in a more efficient way on the last mile and give you this visibility. Once improving this efficiency of the delivery process, the amount of insights you will discover are tremendous.
Yeah, it's a very common story. So we're actually speaking to our US team in preparation for this webinar, and they told us an amazing story about a pizza retailer they're working with in California. So they decided to do something about the last mile just to better optimize the drivers out of the store and obviously give a much stronger customer experience through the delivery process for their pizzas. And so we went into their store and we looked at their process and we looked at their point of sale and their kitchen delivery system, and we spoke with the drivers, and we started implementing a last mile solution. So we went in there and we said, okay, cool, here are the orders for the 6 to 8 p.m. shift. Driver 1, you take these 3 orders. Driver 2, you take those 4 orders. Driver 3, you take those 5 orders. And this is how we're going to do it. This is the visibility. This is the routing. This is the customer experience. And the drivers just looked at our project management team and go, no, that's not how it's going to happen today. And we're like, oh, why not? And they go, and the driver 1 goes, well, I've been here the longest. I've been working here for 5 years. I want to do the Beverly Hills suburbs. They give better tips. Driver 3, he's only been here for 2 weeks. He can take the slum suburbs of Los Angeles. I'm not delivering out there. The tips are terrible. And so it's just a very funny insight, and we relayed that back to management. Our US team relayed that back to management, and we told them exactly what's happening with the delivery process, and they were gobsmacked. They were like, wow, this is actually, they didn't realize this was happening in their business, in terms of there was this strange driver hierarchy when it came to delivering pizzas in California. And so even just the strange positive externalities that you can pick up when implementing different type of solutions to get that more control tower visibility of what's happening within your stores was a bit of a game changer for them.
So that takes us to the third step, cover the internal and external visibility. And we talked about the communication. So again, we have different players in the ecosystem, and we want to communicate with each one of them. We want to track our fleet. We want our customers to track the driver. We want to have this communication between all of them. So once the driver, just like Jonathan mentioned in the beginning, that the customer calling the call center, where is my driver? The call center won't know exactly where the driver is. He has exactly the same notification as the customer, because he's getting his feeds from the 3PL provider. So we cover this. We're talking about providing this on-time deliveries to measure the distance, decrease the friction, and at the end of the day, to measure the performance of your drivers, of your fleet. So you can have your internal drivers, you can use 3PLs, you can use crowdsource, but at the end of the day, having this visibility of the real-time visibility of what's happening within the organization And the data visibility is a very, very important thing. So this step build on the last point. The efficient logistics are impossible without the efficient communication. The transparency brought out by technology empower every of the stakeholder to find out what they need to know, exactly when they need to know it. This improved communication flow in two main ways. First, the ability to track deliveries in real time provides a superior customer experience, but also reduce the volume of calls, email, and messages. These touch-free environments translate into significant efficiency since there are fewer interactions. When a question arises, everyone has the tools they need to have in real time update to retrieve the necessary information without depending on others. And I think this is the one of the fastest ROI that we've seen here in Bring. I mean, just think about a call center, have 50 or 100 people working a week because the customer don't know where their driver is, what's happening with the delivery, what is the ETA, what is the time window, and so on. So once you're implementing a technology, you can save this cost. You can go from 100 people in the call center to a few in a shift because everything is accessible. The customer knows everything, the dispatcher knows everything, and it's make everyone's life easier and smoother.
I think it's like, that same example, like, 5-10 years ago when I was living, 5 years ago when I was in Melbourne, and, it's come Saturday night and you wanted to order a taxi to go out, and you'd order a taxi and, you call and you'd wait 20 minutes on hold. Eventually you get through, you place an order, and then the taxi call center and say, cool, we'll dispatch the next available driver, please wait outside. And, you'd go outside, you'd wait, and 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes could go by and you wouldn't know where your taxi driver is. And, you'd obviously call up again and go, hey, I ordered a taxi 30 minutes ago. When's he coming? And then you get the same response. Next available, should be there in a few minutes. And eventually it would come, but it was just, that was the standard. And then, Uber came along and said, well, you know what? You should be able to see where your driver is at any given time and even plan for when your driver should be there. And so Idor mentioned, a call center. I can't imagine that Uber has a big call center for where is my Uber, because you can track him in real time. You can see or him or her, you can see where the driver is in real time. The same as with Domino's Pizza, you can see where the order is at any given time. You can see when it's coming out of the oven. You can see when it's being driven. And there is no call center, or there's a very small call center, if that makes sense, because once you can see where the order is, once you can see where something is, you no longer need to call and say, where is it? You no longer need to write a customer complaint, because you have the visibility. Once you have the visibility, you have the control.
And of course, worth mentioning that also you have the capabilities of communicate with the drivers directly. I mean, you can call him, you can send him an SMS or anything like that. So customized experience. Why all retailers e-commerce have the same experience? A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't cut it in our day. The customer-centric mindset means that companies have to prioritize not only what customers want, but only when, where, and how they want it. And that means that companies need to be able to deliver a more personal experience at scale, since the delivery of any digital purchase is just as important as the product. And the term of delivery need to be as customizable as product themselves. So loyalty, especially today when the competition is getting very, very tight. Research shown that up to 15% of business most of our customer accounts for 55 to 70% of its total sales. So you can make sure every touch point is as memorable as possible. Delivery technology provide even more touch point to engage customer through instant communication and visibility with drivers, and the opportunity to rate and review the service. Second, think about who is the face of your company in the delivery process. I mean, when I order something from any retailers today, most of the time, especially in Australia, they're using 3PLs. So when I had a bad experience, I will aim it toward the retailers, to the business I ordered the goods, not from the Australian Post driver or the toll drivers or fast driver. The face of the business is the one that I will have my bad feedback or the good feedback. This is why it's also very important to have this communication and to have this data and to actually control the resources.
Yeah, it's the same across the world, especially in the US. No one sits there and goes, "Oh, FedEx is 4-star delivery whilst DHL is 3. You know, everyone's like, oh, they're doing deliveries. It doesn't really matter. But like, you know, when you have a bad experience, you're not going to go tell your friends, oh, FedEx is terrible. You blame the retailer, and then it's the same. It's the same thing when it comes down to you know, ordering food through Deliveroo or what may have you. When you have a bad experience ordering through them, you know, you don't always go Deliveroo's bad, the food came cold. You know, they promised it in 25 minutes, it came in 25 minutes. If the food came cold, you're probably blaming the kitchen, you're probably blaming the restaurant that you ordered it from. So you know, whoever's doing your delivery becomes the accidental face of your brand. And if you have a bad experience with the brand, you're not really blaming the delivery driver or the external fleet. You're, even if it's internal fleet, even if it is your own fleet, you know, it's a reflective of your brand. And so it's about empowering the drivers, whether it's about having your own fleet or external fleet, to have that better customer experience and have that better visibility through the process. And once you have all that, it builds towards brand loyalty is what Ido is talking about.
Yeah. So you can see that we have some people from a financial department in the couch. So the next slide is actually for you. And yes, we're talking about reducing the cost. You know, Australian retailers have some natural disadvantages to contact with due to the higher labor costs and the geographically population, making it the latest innovation even to be more vital. You know, there are several steps that can be taken to keep costs down without compromising the customer experience, including optimizing your warehouse, your network, streamline the fulfillment, distribution, and more. And we're talking about optimize the process, automated, and make sure that we are using all the resources that we have in the most efficient way. You know, if you're talking about optimizing the route, we're talking about you know, having customers, you know, once the customer is satisfied, they will keep using the service, and measure the fleets. These kind of things, in the end of the day, will help you to reduce costs in different places within the organization.
Yeah, so going on from what he does, mentioning, once you streamline your operations and cut costs through, you know, whether it's be through lower numbers at a call center, or just you know, when you implement a routing technology, being able to take more goods on any particular truck, or use less fuel, or use less if it's cost per drop, then you know, it's about maximizing the resources at your disposal. And you know, whether it's Bring or whether it's just any last mile solution, once you have this visibility and once you have the ability to streamline your operations, just a little, you know, 1%, 5% differences can make a big difference to your overriding business.
So we need to keep in mind that Amazon and others invest significant amount of resource in technology, billions of dollars. This is what enabled them to roll out these kind of capabilities. So today, leveraging the technology is becoming a key. You know, at the end of the day, the process on each business is similar. You know, we have the consumers, we're placing an order, the order will go either to be an online and offline, a call center, or anything like that. We have a consumer who is placing an order, and the order will go to the business systems. It can be the e-commerce, it can be the POS, the inventory, the HR system, everything like that the system has. So what we do here in Bring, okay, we understand that each business has its own logic, has its own technology. What we do is that we connect via the API. Okay, Bring is an API driven, meaning that today all of our customers, all of our enterprise customers, they connected Bring to their system, whether if you're talking about Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, different POS, and so on. So once you've integrated to the Bring solution, you have these different capabilities. You can actually have this visibility about the fleet internally, and of course for the customers, you can have the engagement, the communication with all the channels. You can have the measurement for the data. You can have a lot of things that actually can help you to be more scalable, more faster, frictionless with the delivery process, and so on. And of course, using our API, you can manage this elastic logistic, meaning that with the API, you can actually plug and play with different fleet. You know, so you can have your internal fleet, you can connect external fleet using API, you can connect different 3PLs, your local providers, and so on. So at the end of the day, The goal is actually managing everything from a centralized system from one place. You can manage fleet A, fleet B, C, D, and so on from one place. You don't need to work with different tablets, different devices. Everything is in one place.
Yeah, actually, though, we've got an amazing question popped up. I know we're doing Q&A at the end, but I think it's a very relevant question. We got, I'll ask the name, but someone's asking, we use dedicated 3PLs for our delivery. How can we get more visibility over the delivery performance?
So that's a great question. I mean, today we have different use cases around the world. Obviously, you can have your internal fleet, which is off the shelf. It's very easy to use, but at the same time, we've seen things that happening that a lot of businesses today want to have more offering to their customers. So first option, if we're talking about kind of a mom and pop logistic companies, they can use the Bring platform, which is very easy to use. And most of the time, these small companies, they don't have any technology in place. When we're talking about let's say first year companies, and most of them have the technology capabilities, so we know how to integrate with them. We're doing it with different places around the world, also with the food industry, on retailers, logistic company, and so on. So what will happen is that they can either use our SDK for the driver app, or we can just communicate with their devices via the API, and they can send all the alerts and the data to the Bring dashboard. So before moving to the Q&A session, just a few words about Bring for those who are not familiar with us. So Bring is a SaaS delivery management platform for enterprise. So we're just a platform. We don't have the drivers or trucks, but we are a technology provider. Today, we are operating in more than 60 countries around the world, working with some of the Fortune 500 that using Bring to streamline the last mile. And I mean, to summarize it, I mean, using Bring, as long as you need to deliver something from A to B or from multiple location, and it doesn't matter if I'm talking about food, parcel, managing your technician, you can use Bring. Okay, so in our ecosystem, we have a dashboard, the control tower. This is how you manage the entire operation. You can see the drivers in real time, create optimization. And I think that one of the key factors is that with one system, you can manage different operation, meaning you can manage express delivery, you can manage same day, next day, you can manage internal fleet, external fleet, and so on. The second component that we have is the driver app, which is a native iOS and Android. Very easy to use for the drivers. Driver will see exactly what they need to do, where they need to go. They can take proof of delivery. They can communicate with the customer and so on. And of course, the customer experience, which is very, very flexible as our technology did. Customer receive an SMS. Hey, Jonathan, your delivery is on the way. You can track it in here. This is a basic HTML5 where the customer can track the driver on real time, communicate with him, see the ETA with the company branding, and so on and so on. So I think now it's a good time to move to the Q&A. Jonathan, do we have any questions for the crowd?
Yeah. So I'll just read the first one. I've got an interesting one here. We're a fast food company with over 70 locations across Australia and New Zealand, using a combination of Deliveroo and Uber Eats to do the deliveries. How do we get more visibility and data in relation to their performance?
That's a great question. Just like we talked about the retail industry with plugging different fleets, we can do it also with the food industry. If you're talking about Australia, you have Foodora, you have Menulog, you have Uber. So what we do in Europe and in Latin America, I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest pain for QSRs is actually managing these tablets. So what we're doing is that we've created integration with all of them, centralizing all the orders to one screen instead of working with 4 or 5 tablets. So other than having this visibility and the performance of each of them, you have one unified customer experience. And think about your dispatchers. Stop using 4 tablets to have everything in one screen can be a game changer when we're talking about efficiency and the speed of work and the visibility about things that are happening within the organization.
So we've got a very funny question here, but it's a very relevant question. I'll ask his name as well, but it's come through and said, my car broke down last week and I was very disappointed with, I couldn't see what time the roadside assist company was going to come or arrive. how can you integrate with companies like that so I can have a better experience next time my car breaks down?
So we've covered retail, we covered QSRs, but again, I mentioned before that on Bring, as long as you need to deliver something from A to B, B2C, multiple location, it doesn't matter what we deliver. So in this case, I can tell you, I can share with you that we've started recently working with one of the biggest roadside assistants. I'm not sure if I can disclose the name, so I will save it for now. But they've integrated Bring to their solutions, and what's happening is that the driver is actually receiving the task about any job that he needs to do, going from the call center. So just think about what happened when you're stuck with your car and you need to wait for the driver, which is probably the most frustrating time in your life, not knowing where the driver is. So what we did in this case is that we created an integration to their app and their call center. So as soon as something has happened, based on the case of the customer, we know how to allocate a specific driver to this customer and to optimize the route based on the driver capabilities and the distance. So if this is a flat tire and this is a truck, our system will know which driver to send based on his capabilities, that he can handle a flat tire in a truck and based on his location.
Great. Another question. We see you guys work with Panera Bread and I'm presuming other fast food chains. Where if I would place an order, do I need to download their app, or how does it work at the moment?
So it really depends. Each use case have its own demand. Each business has their own logic. But at the end of the day, with Bring, we integrate to the e-commerce, to the app, and then the ordering process done from the business side. So when you order something from Panera, you do it from your website, from their website or their app. But the customer experience using our SDK, you can embed it to the business app. So if you're ordering something from Johnny's Pizza and you do it from his app, you'll be able to track the entire Bring experience within Johnny app, which is good because you're still keeping your customer engaged with your technology.
Yeah.
So guys, I think this is it for now. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. I think that after this webinar, I'm probably going to send a recording as well. And please feel free to reach out to Jonathan and I via email, via our LinkedIn page, Facebook page, or anything like that. And I also want to thanks to the amazing marketing team that helped us with this presentation.
Thank you very much as well. We have a few other questions as well, but we'll be sure to address them. We have your contact details and email. We'll address some of those extra questions by email afterwards. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time. Looking forward to have a great day. We know the Socceroos are playing later today, so go Jedinak, I'm guessing, and yeah, go Socceroos. Hopefully we can knock off Denmark.